We're going to read from my latest book, Emotional Vampires, How to Protect Your Happiness from People That Suck Yours Dry. And the chapter is called Boundary Invaders. They treat your do not disturb sign as a suggestion. Boundary invaders are people who see their relationship very differently than you do. That misalignment can show up in all kinds of ways, but one of the most common examples I see is in friendships between young men and women, particularly in their teens and 20s. Here's what often happens. A young man and woman spend time together, hang out regularly, maybe talk every day, but they're just friends. At least that's how it's labeled. In many of these cases, especially from the guy's side, he's hoping it turns into something more. He may generally enjoy her company, but underneath the friendship is the quiet or not so quiet hope that it becomes romantic. Now, I know I'll probably take some heat for saying this, but here it is. In most cases, men and women aren't just friends. Not because it's impossible, but because there's often an unspoken dynamic coming from the men's side. Men in general want to sleep with a woman. Sorry, I hate to say it. Happens to be true. It creates a relationship imbalance and over time leads to confusion, hurt feelings, and crossed boundaries. And by the way, this can also lead to poor relationships later on in life when you're married. If a guy insists that he has zero romantic or physical interest in his close female friend, in many cases, he's probably not being entirely honest. Now, this dynamic doesn't always work the same way in reverse. Women often enjoy male friendships because of the attention and the validation they receive. It feels good to be valued, listened to, and admired. Plus, having a male friend can be a refreshing change of pace, especially for women who struggle to connect with other women. I've met many women who simply find male companionships easier. Less drama and no constant comparison of each other's, especially their purses. Some guys may start off with similar intentions, but even eventually, more often than not, the desire for something physical or romantic creeps in. It may not be spoken, but it's there, simmering beneath the surface. Here's the challenge with men and women being just friends. Physical touch, even something simple as a hug or casual contact, can trigger the desire of oxytocin. This, as discussed earlier in this chapter on narcissists, this so-called love hormone fuels sexual attraction and helps form romantic attachments. This sneaky chemical is great for bonding, but not so great for keeping things strictly platonic. Oxytocin is both a hormone and a neurotransmitter, and it does both well. This is why if a man is friends with a woman he is not attracted to, which is probably rare, he may come to change his mind about them the more there is an increase in oxytocin production. Let me give you an example. Case study. It happened to me. When I used to travel to conventions, I'd often see the same people year after year. One of the larger companies I did business with had a woman who handled all their transactions. She was about 10 years older than me and had what you might call a classic biker chick vibe. She smoked, was a bit rough around the edges, and very overweight. She was very sweet though, and I interacted with her a lot because of how much business I did with her company. And every time we saw each other, she probably 8 times a year for nearly 30 years, she wanted to give me hugs. Then one day after one of those familiar hugs, I remember thinking to myself, she's not that bad. That's when it hit me. This is how so many poor relationships begin. Of course, I didn't start one with her, but it came into my mind. It's true. This happens. Physical touch, even something as innocent as a hug, doesn't care about age gaps, crooked yellow teeth, or whether someone is your type. It just tricks your brain into forming a connection, whether you plan to or not. Boundary invaders can also show up as a new neighbor who just moved in. They may start name-dropping you as a friend to boost their own social standing, even though you barely know them or wouldn't consider the relationship that close. It's not necessarily malicious, but it's presumptive when someone skips steps in the natural progression of connection. Another type of boundary invader is someone who inserts themselves into conversations you consider private. They may not mean harm, but they ignore social clues, hovering nearby, chiming in uninvited, or acting like every conversation is open to the public. It's annoying and intrusive, and it can make you feel like you have no personal space. This is also someone who's probably socially awkward. Have you ever had a conversation with a close talker? Oh my gosh, they kill me. They're probably also non-stop talkers. You know, the kind of person who thinks 6 inches is a perfect acceptable conversation distance. The worst is when you can actually smell their breath. That's when my brain starts screaming, run away! Boundary invaders often bother us because they violate our sense of protected space. That's why setting boundaries isn't just a nice idea, but essential to emotional well-being. Not every thought deserves a mic, not every person deserves access to your space, and not everyone deserves your emotional energy like you're eating endless apps at TGI Fridays. Boundaries are the fence you build around your peace, and you're the only one who gets to decide who or what comes through that gate. Unless, of course, you're not so sure you can trust your own decisions, in which case you might be dealing with the next type of emotional vampires, the second guessers. This is Coach Radner, and this is a chapter from my book, Emotional Vampires: How to Protect Your Happiness from People That Suck Yours Dry.